If you're playing The Legend of Khiimori and feel like your horse is evolving far too slowly, believe me, I've been through that same frustration. You want that powerful, fast, almost unstoppable animal, but it feels like the game doesn't tell you everything you need to know to get there. So I went deep, tested a lot, and put together the 10 most efficient ways to speed up that evolution. Some might seem obvious, but I guarantee there's stuff here you're not doing yet, and it makes a massive difference. I'm Matthew, and the video is about to start. If you feel your horse is evolving too slowly, I know exactly what you're going through. I spent a long time trying to scale attributes through normal grinding, and it was only when I discovered this specific item that everything changed. There is a much more efficient way to accelerate this process, and it's hidden behind a system that many people ignore in their first few hours of gameplay. The item you need is called training powder. But before you go looking for it, you need to raise your courier rank to level 5. I know it sounds like an unnecessary detour, but trust me, it's worth every minute invested. This rank system serves a much greater purpose than it appears at first glance, and unlocking training powder is one of the biggest reasons to dedicate yourself to it early on. Once unlocked, training powder costs only 5 mushrooms to use, which is a ridiculously affordable price considering what it does. For 1 full minute, it doubles your horse's attribute point gains. This means every exercise, every race, and every action that would normally yield 1 point now yields 2. If you stack this with the right activities during that minute, the jump in evolution is absurd. My recommendation is to plan ahead before using the powder. Don't activate it aimlessly in the middle of nowhere, because that minute passes way too fast. Gather the training activities you want to do, activate the training powder, and then go all out. This short, well-utilized window can save you an enormous amount of grinding time and make your horse competitive much sooner than you'd expect. This is a tip that sounds crazy the first time you hear it, but it works better than anything else I've tested for increasing your horse's stamina. The game doesn't explain this properly anywhere, and I only discovered it by accident after pushing my horse too hard in a long race. Sometimes the best secrets in a game are hidden exactly in the moments when you think you're making a mistake. The mechanics are simple. Gallop continuously until the horse's stamina is completely depleted, and then keep pushing it anyway. When the health bar starts turning red, that's exactly where the magic happens. The game recognizes that state of physical stress and transforms it into endurance gains far more rapidly than normal training ever would. But I have to be honest with you, this is risky. If you don't pay attention and let the health drop too low, your horse might faint or suffer serious consequences depending on where you are on the map. I learned this the hard way in the middle of a route I don't even want to remember. So keep a constant eye on the health bar and don't let it pass the critical point. The ideal way is to do this training in open, safe areas, far from obstacles and enemies, so you have total control over the situation. When health starts entering the red zone, evaluate if you can handle a few more seconds or if it's time to let the horse rest. With practice, you'll learn the exact limit, and then this method becomes your best friend for maximizing the animal's resistance without wasting time on conventional grinding. There's a technique I became obsessed with testing as soon as I discovered it, and it literally involves making your horse's life harder on purpose. It sounds cruel, but the game has a very clever logic behind it. The more challenging the environment and the load the animal carries, the faster it develops strength and balance. When I started applying this systematically, the difference in attributes was visibly staggering. What you're going to do is overload the horse with weight above its comfortable limit and then trot through difficult terrain like mud or sand. One of the best places to do this is on the outskirts of Tav, which has exactly the kind of heavy terrain the game uses to calculate this attribute gain. Slow, forced movement over these surfaces is what triggers the system most efficiently. So don't try to gallop here. The trot is the secret. What impressed me about this mechanic is how it mimics something that makes sense in the real world. A horse carrying weight on unstable ground naturally develops muscle and balance much faster than one running on a flat track. The developers clearly thought this through, and this kind of detail is exactly what separates a game with well-built systems from one that just simulates the look of depth. The practical tip is to set up a short route around Tove and repeat the path a few times with the load at the maximum the horse can handle without stopping completely. You don't need long sessions because the gain per minute in this state is high enough to pay off quickly. Combine this with other training methods, and you'll have a statistically superior horse much sooner than the game expects. Of all the techniques I've tested to evolve horses, this one is undoubtedly the most satisfying to execute. Not just because it works well, but because the maneuver itself looks incredible, and you'll want to repeat it not just for the points, but because it simply feels great. I'm talking about the sliding stop, that sliding halt where the horse kicks up dust, and it yields 6 agility points at once for every successful execution. What you do is reach maximum galloping speed, and then press the dismount button at the right moment to trigger the sudden stop. The horse brakes by sliding its back legs, and it's exactly during this movement that the game registers the maneuver and gives you the agility points. The key is ensuring the slide is complete, because if you stop unevenly or on very rugged terrain, the animation won't finish correctly and the points won't count. 6 points at once might seem like little on paper, but think about it. If you do this maneuver 10 times in a short session, that's 60 agility points accumulated in just a few minutes. Compared to the incremental gain of conventional training, this is absurdly more efficient. Best of all, no resources are being consumed here. It's literally just you, your horse, and an open space to gain speed. My recommendation is to find a long, flat straight, hit full speed, and execute the maneuver at the end of the path, like a training lane. Go back to the start, repeat the process, and stack those points. It's hypnotic to do and works wonders. If you want an agile horse fast, this is the most direct path the game offers. This is the most advanced horse evolution tip I've found in the game, and it's basically a combination of everything that works in the attribute system all at once. Instead of focusing on one attribute at a time, there is a way to raise strength, balance, and endurance simultaneously in a single session. When I discovered this, I felt like I finally understood how the game truly wants you to train your horse. The method is as follows. Overload your horse with excessive weight, let its health drop to the low zone, and then walk back and forth over rocky surfaces. The stony terrain, combined with the overload and the weakened physical state, creates a combination of stressors that the game interprets as intense training on multiple fronts at the same time. Each of these factors alone already accelerates a specific attribute, but together they trigger all 3 main ones at once. What makes this so fascinating is realizing that the developers built a system where mechanics overlap and enhance each other. It's not an exploit or a bug, it's the game working exactly as designed. But most people never combine these conditions at once because it feels like you're mistreating the animal. And well, technically you are, but in the name of maximum training efficiency, the part that requires the most attention is managing the horse's health during the process. You need to keep it in the low zone without letting it drop too far, so keep a constant eye on the bar and take a break for recovery when necessary before resuming. Find an accessible rocky area, set the load, and do this back and forth with focus. It is one of the most efficient training sessions the game offers, and once you get the rhythm, it's hard to go back to normal methods. There is an aspect of the horse system that many people treat as a cosmetic detail and end up ignoring completely, and it's sabotaging your animal's evolution without you even realizing it. The horse's mood and hygiene are not decorative elements. They directly affect performance during training. If you are investing time into any of the other evolution techniques without taking care of this, you are literally leaving points on the table. The emotional side works like this. A horse with low mood has reduced performance in everything it does, which means every maneuver, every overload session, and every gallop yields less than it should. The solution is simple and satisfying. Use fruits to improve the animal's emotional state before starting any intense training session. It's a small investment that multiplies the return on everything you do next. Hygiene works differently, but is equally important. As you train on difficult terrains like mud, sand, and stones, the horse accumulates dirt, and this dirt creates penalties that cut attribute efficiency. Brushing the horse regularly removes this accumulated grime and prevents the system from working against you. It's the kind of thing the game doesn't shout in your ear, but it makes a real difference in the final numbers. What I started doing was turning this into a ritual before any training session. I check the mood, give fruits if necessary, brush the horse, and only then begin. It takes less than a minute and ensures every second of training is operating at maximum efficiency. It sounds basic, But it's exactly this kind of detail that separates those who evolve their horse quickly from those wondering why progress is so slow. One of the most common traps I fell into myself is the obsession with creating that absolute horse perfect in everything, capable of handling any situation. I went down that path in the first few hours and realized I was wasting time and resources trying to balance attributes that basically pull in opposite directions. The game was designed for you to think differently, and when that clicked in my head, my entire approach changed. The logic is specialization by terrain. Heavy horses with high strength are the ones you want when crossing deep rivers, where the current pulls and the animal's weight and power make all the difference in maintaining control. On the other hand, for desert ravines where you need precise jumps and quick reactions, a light horse with high agility and balance will perform in a way that no generalist horse could ever match. What makes this approach so efficient is that each specialized horse evolves much faster within its area of focus. Instead of spreading training across 6 different attributes, you concentrate energy on the 2 or 3 that matter for that specific profile. The result is that you reach the performance ceiling for each horse in much less time than trying to build one that is mediocre at everything. My recommendation is to identify the routes and terrains you use most frequently at your current stage of the game and set up a dedicated horse for each. It might seem like a lot of work to manage multiple animals, but in practice, it's the opposite. You always have the right tool for every situation, and no horse is being underutilized. The game rewards those who think like a true handler, not someone looking for a universal shortcut. If you want to understand what the deepest and most rewarding system of all horse progression in The Legend of Khiimori is, it's genetic breeding. I took a long time to dive into this because it seemed too complex at first, but once I understood the logic behind crossbreeding, I realized it's the only system in the game that allows your progress to be literally permanent and cumulative across generations of animals. What happens is that when you breed 2 horses, the foal that is born inherits a combination of the parent's attributes, colors, and physical characteristics. The detail that changes everything is that it inherits these as base stats, not as train points. This means you are essentially raising the starting point for the next generation, and a horse born with a high base will reach performance levels that a common horse would never hit, even with maximum training. The practical strategy is to resist the urge to use your best horses just for day-to-day activities. They are breeders, and their value lies much more in what the next generation can become than in what they do alone right now. Cross your best strength specimens with your best agility ones, for example, and watch how the foal is born with a competitive base in both attributes. What fascinates me about this system is that it creates a progression loop that goes far beyond the individual horse. You are investing in the future, building a lineage, and each generation can be better than the previous one if you make the right crosses. It's the kind of depth few games have the courage to implement, and mastering it is what truly separates the players who reach the top of the equestrian system from those who get stuck halfway. There's something I learned after wasting a lot of time without realizing where the problem was. Sometimes the horse isn't evolving slowly because the training method is bad, but because it simply isn't in a condition to train. Accumulated injuries and poorly maintained hooves reduce the efficiency of everything. And the worst part is that this happens silently, without that obvious warning that would make everyone pay attention immediately. Injuries are especially treacherous because many people keep pushing training even when the animal should already be in recovery. What happens then is the classic snowball effect. The horse performs less, you push harder to compensate, and you end up delaying progress even further. Because of this, crafting bandages and treating any damage as quickly as possible isn't a detail, it's a central part of fast and consistent evolution. Hooves follow this exact same logic. If you use the horse on rocky terrain, mud, sand, or during long racing sessions, wear and tear accumulates and begins to impact general performance. Regular hoof maintenance ensures it remains stable, responsive, and fit to endure heavy training without losing yield. It's one of those mechanics that seems secondary until you realize how much they influence everything else. Today, I see this as a basic rule before any intense session. Check for injuries, use bandages if necessary, and confirm the hooves are in order. It looks like a care routine, but in practice, it's pure optimization. If the horse is healthy, every minute of training truly counts. If it's injured or worn out, you're just prolonging a process that could be much faster. In the beginning of the game, I focused so much on direct horse training that I completely forgot to build my own reputation in the game world. And that's a serious problem because many of the most powerful care and training resources are locked behind a prestige system that only advances when you complete NPC quests and specific deliveries. Prestige quests might seem like side activities disconnected from horse evolution, but they are exactly the opposite. Every completed delivery and every resolved NPC mission increases your reputation and opens access to care items and resources that simply aren't available to those still at initial prestige levels. It's a progression system that directly feeds another progression system, and ignoring one means limiting the other. What made me take this more seriously was realizing that some of the best training items in the game are hidden behind these reputation rewards. These aren't just cosmetic bonuses or minor conveniences. They are tools that concretely change the speed at which your horses evolve in the long run. When you unlock these resources early, the entire progression curve for the rest of the game becomes faster and smoother. My approach changed to interspersing intense training sessions with periods dedicated to completing prestige quests. You don't need to be obsessive, but keeping this progression active in parallel ensures you'll never reach an advanced point in the game and realize you lack access to the right tools because you neglected your reputation earlier on. It's a long-term investment, and this kind of decision is what separates those who progress consistently from those who get stuck in the middle of the road.